Tonight on 60 Minutes, we bring you the story of a Christian work of art that has been on quite the wild ride over the last century, the coveted altarpiece of German sculptor Veit Stoss.
Altarpieces were one of the high points of Christian art during the late Gothic, Renaissance, and Counter-Reformation periods, ranging from around 1200 to 1700 CE. Due to the fact that the shrine was moved to make the altar the main focal point of the church around the time of 1000 CE, most altarpieces were constructed from that point forward. The iconography of altarpieces is often closely linked with biblical art, most commonly depicting saints and members of the Holy Family.
Before being subsumed into Renaissance art, late Gothic art lived on well into the 16th century in many areas, and especially in the country of Germany. It was Germany that produced the sculptor credited with what is now considered the largest Gothic altarpiece in the world, and a crown jewel of Poland. Born in 1450, Veit Stoss rose to become one of the great artists of his time, and his career of works is said to have covered the transition between the late Gothic and Northern Renaissance periods.
He moved to Krakow, Poland in 1477 after being commissioned to construct the massive polychrome wooden altarpiece. Standing at over 40 feet tall and 35 feet wide when completely open, the work was not completed until 1489, even with the help of specialized painters and gilders. Paid for by the people of Krakow at over 2,000 gulden, the triptych was placed behind the high altar in St. Mary's Basilica in the central grand square of Krakow, which is why the work is sometimes referred to as St. Mary's Altar.
To be clearly seen from the back of the church, the remarkable altarpiece consists of 200 fine limewood sculptures treated with color and gold foil. The realistically sculpted figures at the center of the altarpiece stand more than 12 feet high each. Other parts of the work were made from oak and larchwood. The dominating scene at the base of the altarpiece depicts the death of Jesus' mother Mary in the presence of the 12 apostles. Above that, in the upper central part of the work, the Assumption of Mary is illustrated, representing the bodily taking up of the Virgin into heaven at the end of her earthly life. This work was the first late Gothic altarpiece to treat these two subjects in such a significant way. In addition, the subjects are treated somewhat oddly. Rather than convening at her deathbed, the apostles stand, seemingly very moved, around Mary as she kneels in prayer. Above, the gate of heaven is opened and Mary is led through by Christ. Farther up, outside the main frame of the altarpiece, the coronation of Mary is depicted, attended by two angels and figures of Polish national saints Stanislaus and Adalbert of Prague on either side.
When the triptych is completely open, the side panels surrounding the scenes previously described show the 6 scenes of the joys of Mary. The left side includes the Annunciation, the birth of Christ, and the 3 wise men, while the right side shows the resurrection of Christ, the ascension of Christ, and the descent of the Holy Spirit. When the wings are closed, 12 scenes from the life of the Virgin and the life of Christ are visible.
Irrelevant in Germany after his death, Veit Stoss's life and works were commemorated in 1933 by the Germanic Museum of Nuremberg. The resurfacing of some of his works reignited appreciation for his impressive craft among the German people. Perhaps most appreciative were Nazi officials, who became art connoisseurs during the regime under Hitler's command. Just before the beginning of World War II, and as Germany occupied Poland, the Polish government realized that Nazi officials were stealing artwork uncontrollably for their collections. In order to protect the altarpiece, the people took the Veit Stoss and disassembled its parts into crates. These crates were then placed in different locations all across the countryside of Poland. A Nazi unit by the name of Sonderkommando Posen under Hans Frank was responsible for locating these crates, and they were transported to Germany and put in the basement of the Nuremberg castle. It is important to note that the German theft of this great artwork was not meant to be an iconoclastic attack on religion, but rather a means of breaking the collective consciousness and livelihood of the Polish people during German occupation. The plan worked, and the Polish citizens panicked at the thought of a long-standing symbol of their country's culture being stolen with such relative ease. The Nazis were succeeding in the destruction of Polish culture using places like Poland as personal shopping malls for rare art. Although the population of Poland was being decimated by the Nazis during this time period, the people were reluctant to give up without a fight. At the castle, Polish prisoners allegedly sent messages to members of their resistance efforts, revealing where pieces of the altarpiece were located. Even though Nuremberg experienced heavy waves of bombing time after time, the altarpiece survived and was eventually discovered by Count Emmerich Hutton Zapsky of the Polish 1st Armored Division. This discovery allowed the Veit Stoss to be returned to Poland in 1946. It then underwent major restoration processes after being transported many times and being exposed to harsh conditions during the war. Finally, in 1957, it was returned to its home in St. Mary's Basilica.
The altar was restored several times in its history, but not solely due to the severity of these bombings. It was renovated for the first time before the 1600s, then again in 1868, and finally in 1932. Then, after the war, it was touched up in 1949, and for the last time in the year 1999. Today the altarpiece remains in its original home in St. Mary's Basilica in Krakow, and it is one of the main tourist attractions that Poland has to offer. The only place in the world that possesses a replica of this artwork is in Chicago at St. John Cantius, a historic church in the Polish cathedral style. This church contains a detailed copy of this masterpiece, and being a one-third scale copy, it is the largest and most detailed work of its kind. It was commissioned in 2003 as a tribute to the Galician immigrants who founded the parish in 1893.
Thank you for watching, and that will be all for us on 60 Minutes. Join us again next week as we talk about how the Grinch stole Christmas.